Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast. We want to see you guys healthy mentally, healthy emotionally, and healthy spiritually, and also physically. That is always our goal and our desire through these podcasts. I want to talk to you today about triggers. We all have them, and we want to maybe dissect it, why we have them, when they do rise. What do we do with them? Everybody has triggers regarding situations that maybe we've been through in the past, or also other people tend to trigger us. Think about people that trigger you to anger, or trigger you to rejection, or trigger you to some emotion that maybe is going to lead you down a path that is downward or towards a negative path. But we all have triggers. And before we start talking about triggers, I want you guys to picture like drilling down. It's almost like you're drilling like oil drilling. I want you to drill down and really think about, and go on this journey with me and think about the stories that you tell yourself, the story you tell yourself, what you're saying to yourself, the narratives that you are telling yourself. That's really key when we talk about triggers. What story are you telling yourself? It could be unconsciously, but it could be a story you're telling yourself about you, a story that you're telling yourself about your past, a story that you're telling yourself regarding what somebody else has done to you, a story that you're telling yourself regarding maybe something that you have lost in the past, or regarding a betrayal. And that's important, because when we talk about triggers, it's important to talk about our beliefs and where they come from, and then be able to guide ourselves, or allow others, or even through this podcast, allow us to come to you and then allow this beliefs, right? And allow us to guide you regarding those stories that you're telling yourself, so that you can really let go of those things that have a hold on you. Because there's part of the story that we're telling ourselves regarding any story. There's part of that story that has a hold on us. And because of that, it provokes triggers. So something that we're telling ourselves regarding something that we've been through, that story, that narrative has a lot to do with triggers. Whatever it is that we've been through, the story we are saying to ourselves regarding that might have a hold on us. And because of that, it's necessary to drill down. It's kind of like when you go to a dentist, but not really. When you go to a dentist has to drill into a tooth. But a dentist numbs you. And they put a numbing solution, right? So that you don't feel that pain. But this is different. I don't want you to numb the pain. Oftentimes, we have numbing mechanisms in our lives, and we don't understand that triggers are not empowering us, but rather they are, just causing us to maybe go down a wrong path. And when it comes to mental health, when it comes to emotional health, when it comes to us taking on this journey of being compassionate towards ourselves and loving ourselves and really getting to know ourselves and why these things trigger us, or what stories we're telling ourselves, we don't want to numb the pain. On the contrary, when it comes to be mentally healthy and emotionally healthy, we actually don't want to numb anything. We want the pain to emerge. And sometimes when we're asking and we go on this journey of mental health or emotional health, pain is going to emerge. When you get to know yourself and what triggers you, or what stories you're telling yourself regarding your past, there will be pain that will emerge. And we don't want you to numb the pain. Those of us that study mental health, we don't want you to go on this numbing journey. We want you to actually feel it. So the stories that we tell ourselves are sometimes an attempt to get us away from the pain. Oftentimes, the stories and the narratives that we tell ourselves is leading us to manage pain. And I don't want you to manage pain, because when you don't feel the pain, there's a difference between managing the pain and feeling the pain. And when you start to manage your pain, that's going to lead you to illness. That's going to lead you to a physical illness, chronic illnesses. That's one of the main reasons for autoimmune diseases, is really somebody trying to manage pain, and they have not really felt the pain, dealt with the pain. That's where multiple sclerosis actually comes from, or even skin conditions. When you have severe chronic skin conditions, a lot of times is because somebody is just managing pain as opposed to actually feeling it. So when we have unresolved, unrecognized emotional pain that's still deeply rooted, and we've just not taken the time to really go on this journey of really identifying what stories are we telling ourselves, then, for example, let's give you an example. Let's say you are a person who can never say no, and you just can't say no. You are addicted to saying yes to everybody. You can never say no. And you'll find that there's a story you're telling yourself. There's a reason why you can't say no. And when you don't go on that journey and you're just managing it, it leads you down sickness as well. So it's important for us to really do a work, because when we talk about triggers, we are going to have to ask ourselves the question, is what story am I telling myself? What is really going on deep? Am I just managing the pain, or am I actually feeling it? Am I being compassionate enough, drilling down deep inside? And what story am I really saying to myself? So when you think about a trigger, and I thought of this morning, because when you think of the word trigger, it's really a metaphor, right? Everybody has triggers, like, oh yeah, that's a trigger. It reminds me of what I went through. But when you think of the word trigger in a physical context of what it means, it's really a trigger is a small part of a weapon. A trigger is, when you think of it in talking in terms of a gun, it's a trigger, right? Or you can look at a pistol or a revolver or a machine gun, right? And that's just a very small part of a weapon in itself. And I was thinking about that because it comes from the word, it's really weaponry. It's really used in war. But a trigger, used it in context like a metaphor, right? It's a really small part of this weapon. It's small, it's tiny, it's the trigger, you use it, it releases. So when you get triggered by somebody, or you get triggered by something, we are really looking at it from a very tunnel vision, and we're looking at it in a small context. Because you think about all the explosive material that's inside that weapon, we kind of overlook it. When we talk about triggers, it's all about where you want to put your attention. It's where you're putting all your attention. So if somebody triggers you to anger or triggers you, I want you to think about it metaphorically and in terms of like that gun, for instance. It's such a small thing, and it's really where you're putting your attention. So putting your attention on the trigger, right? Or versus you can be curious about all this other ammunition and explosive material that this weapon is carrying. So you are in control. Triggers are great to work with. You know why? When something triggers you, it's an opportunity for you to get to know yourself. Why is this triggering me? Why am I triggered to anger? It's an opportunity. So you can look at it in terms of this small little thing that's triggering me and setting me off. Or you can look at it in terms of this explosive thing that, hey, wait, there's power within me, that I don't have to lose control, that I don't have to relinquish my authority and my dominion, but rather I can go on this journey to get to know myself better and to go, why is this triggering me? If you don't want to get to know yourself, right, then the one that triggered you, you're going to become resentful. So most resentful people, and more the bitter people, the resentful people, the people that just choose to just stay in this place of, I got triggered, and then you stay stuck in anger, or I got triggered and you got stuck in rejection, or I got triggered and I got stuck in the grief again because it triggered me. It set me back. It took me back to this memory, and I just stayed stuck there. Well, these are the people that don't want to get to know themselves. Okay. If you really want to pay attention to triggers and learn from them, then get to know yourself. We get stuck in, they did this to me, or they said this about me, or I went through this, or I got stuck in it. Or the trigger can actually be like education for you. There's so much more to that gun. There's explosiveness. There's a bullet in there, right? There's so much more to this weapon. And rather than going on the journey of me getting to know myself, and really identifying the story that I'm telling myself behind that trigger and going on that journey, rather than just focusing on this one trigger, and then it leads me down a downward spiral. It's just a small portion, but it can lead me down a path and a beautiful journey where, hey, there's power within me. Where am I going to put my attention? Am I going to place all my attention in this one thing, what people have done, what people have said, or what I've lost, or what I've been through? Because how you handle the people that trigger you, this is so important. How you handle the people that trigger you is your call. How you handle the people that trigger you, it is on you. And at least you know that you're the one with all the explosiveness inside of you. That's where you gain liberty. That's where freedom comes. When you know what you carry inside, when you can, and you know that you have power to diffuse it. It's kind of like diffusing a gun. I was watching a movie not too long ago, and when we were watching this movie, they were trying to diffuse this bomb. And they only had a few seconds, and then they started counting down 10, 9, 8. And the power was within this woman who was an expert at it, at certain explosives. And it was within her power to diffuse that bomb. It's within your power, whether you're going to let that trigger really set off, or can it lead you down a path of getting to know yourself? And you can diffuse that bomb. That trigger doesn't have to lead you down a destructive path. That trigger doesn't have to lead you down a path that's maybe going to give you a narrative about yourself. And now you feel bad about yourself, and you're telling yourself all these cruel things, and you're shaming yourself. Or these triggers can actually lead you down a path of getting to know yourself. And why does this trigger me? What's really this about? And it's within your control. It's within your authority. Think about that trigger again in that weapon. It's small, it's tiny, and it's really about where you place your attention. And I think that that's where liberty starts. I think that that's where freedom starts. Freedom will really start when you get to know yourself, even when it comes to those triggers. We'll see you guys next time.